Hey.
How are
Have
you?
you got Simon?
Hey.
Hey, you know where he's from. Where are you from, Simon? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Melbourne, Australia.
Did you? Where are you based now, Simon?
I'm based in Colorado, just north of Denver. So
That's
where are you?
It's a long way from home.
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Auckland, New Zealand.
Wouldn't we let you into Australia?
I wasn't interested in going.
Right. This is if you want to upset an Aussie, you just tell them that, oh, yeah, you're from New Zealand. Because I get Americans say to me all the time, oh, are you English? I said, no, that's okay. You can insult me mildly, but if you tell me I'm a Kiwi, I'm going to kick you out of the car. So.
We're the same. Actually, I love Aussie. I lived in Sydney for about 4 years. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a great country.
Why don't you just sell New Zealand to us and be done with it? We'll write you go send the bill to the Aussie government, right?
Let's not talk about the Aussie government.
The Rock of Gibraltar. Come on. It makes the US federal government look like like what they're doing.
Actually, it's quite funny. When I was living in New York, all the Americans everyone would say, oh, what part of London are you from? Because it was almost like if you're speaking English with a funny accent, you're from London.
Well, I mean, sometimes,
true. But America's a great country as well.
We could poke fun of the Americans all day, Claire. We'll probably get banned from LinkedIn when we post it, but we could poke fun of them all day. So Doug can't hear us anyway, so it doesn't matter, right?
Since I'm such a typical ignorant American, I always considered New Zealand and Australia similar to America and Canada. It's not like we have that much different, but apparently there's a big cultural divide between the two of you, or am I wrong?
It's friendly banter, I'd say. It's friendly, isn't it? I think if we were against if there was any trouble, then we'd want to we'd have an Australian by our side at any stage. But it's kind of like with the Canadians and Americans, right? If you get called a Canadian as an American, it's a massive insult.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think most Australians, because I've been to New Zealand a lot, and I love the place. I would never admit it publicly. Are you recording this, Doug? Don't let this go on the blooper reel. Australians would never admit that they like New Zealand, and the fact that the food's amazing and the wine's amazing, and the culture is great. They're apart from most New Zealanders, got dropped on their head when they were a baby. But, I think Aussies would be there to help them in a time of need, like if they ran out of beer or, they needed a place.
Only if it suited the Aussies, though, Doug.
Well, that's true. Like, why would like you would never ring up, if your parents rang up and said, oh, what's happening? And so, look, Claire's here from New Zealand. Don't tell anyone. Like, don't want to tell anyone in the street or... Keep it
to yourself.
Keep it to yourself. I've got a New Zealander living in the guest room.
There's a parasite in the house.
Yeah. She hasn't worked out how to turn the electricity on, but it's all right.
Excellent.
This was a lot of fun. So let me quickly introduce you real quick to the audience. I followed you. Simon, this is the pattern between us.
We don't have an audience. What are you talking about? There's only 3 people that listen to our podcast. What audience? Claire now is the 4th
Simon. Don't be modest. So the strategy to picking guests for the show is I pick people I like. So I've been following Claire probably for a year now. Way back when you were in London, doing your London stroll with your AirPods, and you were spinning stories about common things into a story about sales and being confident in your sales process. And wow, this person is such a wonderful storyteller. I mean, the way she's taking dating, things going on in London or the pandemic, you have such a wonderful way of spinning a common story into your industry. And I told you that a while back, and I think you thought I was not being serious, but I'm very serious. You're a wonderful storyteller. So, real quickly, who are you and what do you do?
My name's Claire Sewell. I'm a Kiwi, obviously, but I live in London, although I came out to New Zealand for Christmas for 6 weeks. And here I am 7 months later because I forget how beautiful New Zealand is. But I have been in sales for 20 years and leading and coaching sales teams for 8 of those. And very quickly, my story was that majority of that time, despite the outward appearance of success, I was riddled with self-doubt and what I now know to be imposter syndrome. So I did a psychology course back in 2015, and it just opened my eyes to how much we suffer when we don't understand how our mind works. And so my passion now is supporting female business owners uncover their sales greatness. A lot of business owners, really passionate about what they do, but don't understand sales and pretty much don't like it. There's an ickiness and a discomfort around it. So I help them overcome their fear and self-doubt around the sales process. And what I say, help them unveil their inner sales goddess so they can create the business and the impact and the income that they sort of desire on a daily basis.
And I don't know if you know this about Simon. Simon is a career sales guy too. So I have 2 salespeople here.
Amazing. I did not know that. Simon, I actually haven't come across you at all in the little LinkedIn journey.
Nice I think I have been in sales my whole life. And I think that, typically in IT and telecom-based selling, and one of the big projects we did was with Telecom New Zealand about 20 years ago. I traveled heavily, and I love selling. And I think, the secret for me is once you realize as an owner, as a business owner, that no one is a better salesperson than you, and you understand that, then and it doesn't mean that you have to be the most confident or the most arrogant or the best spoken, or you need to be able to be as good a copywriter as Doug. As long as I think customers and clients and the public can see that you're passionate about your business, I think that's when you start to win. Like I know, without hopefully sounding too arrogant, in our business and in transportation and in an event and in security, no one can outsell me in terms of in our team, like just because their name's not on the door. And so I care more about the outcome. I'm not saying that we don't have very capable people. We would even hire a New Zealander if we could find someone that, we thought.
Wowzers.
Could. No, we would. We wouldn't even make them do any weird shit at the start. We would probably even hire them and let them, do something. But, I think so what you say is like music to my ears, because I think people, the people that take the journey of entrepreneurship and, make the jump, that's the biggest issue they have. They say, well, I'm not a salesperson. And I say, that's bullshit. Everyone's a salesperson. Yeah. We're all salesperson, right? And you just, even Doug, is a salesperson, right? He doesn't think he is, but he is. He's a very good one. So I'd like to know more about, if Doug was a client, and I know he's the ugliest looking female client you'd have, but if he was a client, what would you be telling him? I'd love to hear that, the Claire sort of engagement model.
Well, I love that you say everyone's a salesperson, because the first thing I want to uncover with my clients is, what's your sales narrative? What are you telling yourself about yourself? Because if you're sitting there saying, I hate sales makes me feel uncomfortable, I can't sell, then that is going to be your results, right? That's going to be your experience. So we look at the sales narrative first. Your internal conditions always dictate your external conditions. So with a lot of what I'm doing, we're looking at unraveling all these limiting beliefs. And one of the biggest ones is that I'm not a salesperson. And, there's a real conscious collective thought that you're born a salesperson. You've got to have the gift of the gab, or, you've got to be good at just, cold calling and door knocking, and you've got to have persistence and a thick skin. and all this rubbish, when really you have to just have a passion, be heart aligned with what your offer is, and know that you can serve someone, that you can help someone, and obviously then that comes down to what your message is. So who do you help, what's their problem, and how do you help them solve it, right? And then you convey that through just being your amazing authentic self with an incredible offer.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that most people just can't articulate that. They're crippled with that self-doubt that they can't sell. Now, I would argue though with you, some people are born better at it than others. Okay, and so if you have that gift,
I think there I hear what you're saying. I think some people have less thinking about it than others.
Right.
Because we're all equal as souls, right? We're all equal as souls, but the difference is the amount of thinking we have on stuff.
Right.
I'd say.
No, I agree.
That's true. If you think about it, some of the best salespeople first of all, let me provide context to the audience. I grew up in a sales household. My father was in sales. His father was in sales. My other grandfather was in sales. So, and what they all had was, they didn't really think about sales. They thought more about, kind of like what Simon does. They think more about, well, my name's on the door. You're my customer. Let's solve problems. They didn't think about scripts or formulas or, landing the whole sale. Again, granted, I wasn't there when they made the sales, but when you hear how they talk to their clients on the phone, because my father would take a phone call at like 10 o'clock at night, and you could just hear that. It sounds like he's talking to a friend, but he's not. That's actually his client, that he's trying to wrap up some part of the deal. And then it's just a light bulb moment where you think you have to be Gordon Gekko and try to sign your way to a deal. Actually, it's just quite the opposite, I find. So maybe you're right. Good salespeople who are good at the start spend less time thinking about it and more time doing it.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's such a beautiful analogy, I think, is when you put the spotlight on your client, on your prospect or your client, and you try to see the world from their perspective or their problem from their perspective, when you're not thinking about what do I say here, or what do I need to say to make them see that I'm the right person for the I, right? As soon as you put the spotlight on them, then your energy shifts as well, and they get the vibe that you really care about this person, you care about helping them, and when the spotlight's on us, on I, then the self-doubt, the insecurity, the disconnect comes in, because you're thinking about yourself and not about somebody else.
Well, yeah, and especially if you're trying to follow a script, it's pointless, right? I think that, as you said, Claire, if you're just trying to solve the problem. I mean, I was going to post about this the other day, Doug. We are looking to engage some technical people to help with the back end of our website. I don't want to go tell people too much because I'm going to get bombarded. Right? So let's for want of a better word, they're search engine optimization experts. And this company had a very good little, let's call it hook. So you basically filled out a little form and it said, we'll give you a free website audit, if you fill out this form. And so you fill out the form, and it's a very nice way of getting you to opt into their email list and to have a soft engagement and start a conversation. So then we have the first initial call that all went quite well. And then there was the big, you could feel the big American, trial close with the big secret handshake and, everything else, right?
Do you want the blue pen or the red pen?
Exactly, all that. So then it was, when they sent back the big audit about what we were recommending, all they could have done, all they had to do was compliment us and say, you guys have done a great job. You've got over 260 reviews. You've got this, you've got that. Well, all their audit said was, you don't have any social media. You don't have any of this. You don't have any of that. I'm thinking, that's just like saying, you picked up a picture of my kids on my office and you said the kids are ugly. It's just like, why wouldn't you lead with someone that's genuine? Right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm pulled by a 20-year-old son who just walked by, he is ugly because he hasn't had a shower and he just woke up, right? So, but what I'm saying, it's just some basic common sense. And I think if people just realize that it's just, and what I wanted to say in my post was that just be human, okay? If that's all you can remember about selling, it's just be human. Just say, forget about trying to sell them something that they don't need. Solve the problem and just be human. Because you may not sell it today, but they remember, you know what, Claire was great. She cared about what was going on in my life. She listened. We had a coffee. I don't need what she has right now, but I tell you what, I'm going to remember her forever. And I think that's what we need to teach our people, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things I'm saying with my clients all the time is connect to build relationships, don't connect to sell.
Right.
Because 97% of the people in the market aren't in the marketplace for what you offer at this point in time anyway, right? So if you're playing the numbers game and you're smashing everyone with buy my stuff, you're massively impacting your brand and your message. But if you're connecting to build relationships and you're playing the long game, then what you start doing is creating a living pipeline of beautiful relationships of people that know what you do, know who you help, know how you help them, and when they do have that potentially or know someone, your name's going to be on the first point of them to refer or call.
See,
so
Doug does that. I think Doug does that very well. I think we met online, and we just started engaging each other's posts, right? I still don't know what he does. He sends me a bill every month. I have no idea what for, and the accounts people pay it. But he just asked me to come to these things every week, and we do stuff together.
We just show up.
Just show up, yeah. But I don't think he ever pitched one thing. I think I was the one that said, "Hey, look, I want to buy some of your stuff, whatever it is. As long as it's legal." Right?
You never pitch though, Doug, do you? I remember reading a post saying that you've done all this business and not pitched once.
No, I've never pitched. I don't even have a website, as I like to remind Simon every day.
Well, shit, there's about 400 people filled out that survey. I've got to send you the results. I'll go have a look at it. If I knew how to work my iPad, I'd flick out of it now, but I think I'd fuck it up. So I'm going to stay.
You're another techno dinosaur, are you, Simon?
I have people to help me with tech, put it that way.
So where to be?
What truth be told, maybe I started the entrepreneur journey 10 years ago. So the first 2 years, I was very big on reading sales books where they had scripts, right? And I forget what the big one was. It was like standards, sales, whatever. But the big thing was, I get you on the phone, and I tell you right away, I have to set the frame. I have to let you know I'm controlling this conversation. So I have to say, hey, Claire, this phone call only has 2 outcomes. You're either going to say yes or you're going to say no. I don't work with maybe, okay? So if you're a maybe, that's a no for me. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and we're going to guide it through this call. And I would do that. And I would feel so awkward doing that. I'm going to be like, hey, Bob, listen, I've got you for 10 minutes. There's only 2 outcomes. It's either a yes or no. And then you click.
What about fuck off? Is that an outcome?
Did you try that with the women in your life, Doug? How'd that work out for you?
No.
What about the men? Maybe you got a better shot with the men, probably.
No. But anyway, I had 0 sales for 6 months. And I'm thinking to myself, 6 months in, I'm doing the same script over and over again. People are pissed off at me. I paid $900 for this sales script. What's going wrong? And then it dawned on me, you know what? I'm not going to sell anything. I've got you on the call. Let's have a conversation. And so that's how I do it. Even 6 years later. So I just had a client call, a prospect call, probably about 3 hours ago. I didn't get the sale, but that was okay. We hopped on the call, and I solved her problem. I didn't even wait. I didn't hold her back. She was like, XYZ. I'm like, you know what? Why don't you change that and do a little bit of that and try that and do it and get back to me? She said, that's phenomenal. Yes, thank you. And, sometimes people will just take me on as a client from there. Sometimes nothing. They just run with it. And sometimes they come back to me 5 months later. At least I feel comfortable hanging up the phone. I don't feel like a sleaze bag. I'm just here to solve your problem. So that's why I don't pick. I just get you on the call and make believe you're my client anyway.
But I think you're right. I mean, I think the world has moved on from all of the traditional, old school selling tactics. When I first started, Claire, I had to cold call. We had to go up and down the streets of Melbourne selling, telecom stuff. But the good thing is the bosses got out there with us. So it wasn't like that they just, kicked us in the ass and said, get outside. And I think all of that stuff is beneficial only for the reason that there's got to be a better way and you never, ever want to do that again. Why would you want to do that? Or why would, in Doug's case, there's only two outcomes, yes or no, or, the Australian, New Zealand outcome is fuck off, right? You idiot, right? So, I think that's, and I think, LinkedIn is still as advanced as LinkedIn is today. And if you look at the dynamic and the conversations that we're having and the engagement we're having with some amazing people, why is all of our inboxes flooded with shit? Right? Please go onto my calendar and choose 15 minutes. Why? I have no idea why. You could be like,
what's in it for me?
Why am I going to go on your calendar lily bullshit thing and select the time? And yes, I'm going to give you 15 minutes. I can't give my own family 15 minutes. Why am I going to give you 15 minutes? Right? So I'm just, and it always says, Simon, I'm putting this at the top of your inbox. Yes, you're stalking me now. This is the 11th email you've sent me, right? Like if I didn't come back to you at the first time, why would you think I'm going to come back to you the second, third, or fourth, right?
Yeah.
So I don't get what's going through people's minds today to think that, because people just treat LinkedIn as a lot of people think it's just one big numbers Rolodex, one big spam fest. And I think that there's got to be I know there's a better way. I know our business operates completely. We don't do that, right?
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, the world has moved on, but there is still the sales patter it's still very old fashioned. It's still the numbers game, like you say, right? Like just if you smash as many direct messages as possible with the same copy and paste, then maybe I'll get, a small percentage of people interested. And companies are still teaching that as well. Like there's completely no respect. I mean, I love what you said about just be human. There's no regard for the person at the end of that message.
Right.
There's no time taken to, let's just look at their profile. Let's see who she is, what she does. Like, is there some sort of common interest? Oh no, that'll take 2 minutes of my busy, let's smash DM time, It's just, we've forgot to just connect and engage and build rapport and be human.
See, and I don't want to blow hot air up Doug's ass all afternoon because he's just going to crank up his bill or something. But he sent an email to our list on Sunday, right? And this is our corporate, typically our high-end list that we don't communicate with too often. And I've been so busy, he sent me all the copy for like the email campaigns this month, and I didn't even read them, to be honest. Don't tell me that. Pretend he can't hear. Right? And so the email went out on Sunday, and I'm thinking, Doug, this copy's just, it's a bit sort of basic, it just didn't gel with me. 22 sales in 3 hours. He got 22 bookings. I'm thinking, holy shit. And it was just like, look, if you don't book, you're going to get, you're going to miss out. This is not a sales tactic. This is, the place is on fire. You got to book, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, him to you to me, the three of us just having a chat. And that was it was very conversational. Yeah. And I thought, our corporate, this is going to be, Fortune 500 admins and VIPs. But I tell you, people booked straight away. And I thought, oh my God, right? And so that's what he's really good at, connecting at a human level. And I thought, I know how to write to our people, to our customers. I'm not a novice writer, but he taught me the importance of being far more human in the communication. And I'm not that rigid. I mean, we're not a typical rigid company like that. I think we're quite approachable. But Doug took it to the next level, and I think that was very important for us.
Yeah, I don't think it matters how big bananas the person is, right? How high up they are and how corporate the business is.
Right.
You're still dealing with a human being that wants to be educated and entertained. And Doug is epic at edutainment, right?
All right. Let's find
making
something
people
to
laugh,
focus-
making people think, making people feel.
We should
How do we
find
make
something
people feel? That's what it is.
Yeah, I don't want to know how Doug feels, to be honest. I don't. we should find something to pick on.
Here, before we move on for a question for Claire, what Simon Corbin email, like before I wrote those emails, I actually read some of the emails my clients get, because I manage some of the accounts, and it's always the same. It's very formal. It kisses their ass. It speaks up instead of what. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to treat these people like they're running a Fortune 500 company. I'm going to treat them like they're in the golf cart next to me. I'm going to say, hey, man, I'm booked up to my ears. If you want to catch a ride with that, now's the time to do it. This is not a sales tactic. I can't help you out after that. Done. And what are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, shit. Because if you did it the opposite way, dear sir, madam, I know you're super busy and you're running the world, but that's how most people talk to them. So I took the opposite approach.
Nice, like it. Turning it on its head. We want to be shaked up, right? We don't want to see the same. We want to see something different, something fresh, something. We get so many marketing messages all day, every day, right? And like you say, majority of it's the same. We've all been brought up, or those who've been brought up in the corporate world you had that boring corporate speech just drummed into us. It's like, give me something fresh, give me something new, make me laugh.
I mean, I don't know if, and I now I'm going to blow hot air up a New Zealander person.
Get ready.
Get ready. Okay, brace yourself, Effie. But Air New Zealand did a pretty good job a couple of times with some very good, clever, cute advertising, which was very human, I think. And I just, but because I've been in that corporate environment where, and this is the real shame. You could say, look, we've got the right content person for you. His name is Doug Lawson. So we wheel him into Qantas, right? And he's then presented with in front of a room of 35 people that are all bureaucrats trying to protect their job and say, now we're going to write to the 23 million frequenters in this country, and we're going to write to them like a human. Oh, no, we can't do that. It won't get through legal, right? No, corporate, that's the wrong. No, you couldn't say that. No, you could. But whereas, see, for me, I love Doug working with us because I don't even have to, I'm hands off. I just, it's like on autopilot. Just point him in the right direction and off he goes. And also, more importantly, he generates a result every time he does it. So I've got all the proof I think. I don't care, that if it's a bit out there. And we've had zero complaints about email. Zero, right?
Yeah. The power in having a business that's agile, right?
Right. And I think that's where he works the best. And I think that's where we work the best. And, let me ask you a question, Claire. Could you consult to a Fortune 500 CEO and have the same result?
Yes. Well, what do you mean in terms of?
Well, okay, so you're hugely effective at, the entrepreneur mindset, understanding the entrepreneur mindset. Small, let's call it the SME market. You're obviously extremely effective at, but then, then the CEO of Air New Zealand calls you up tomorrow and says, Claire, okay, I need help. This is what I want. I think, can you truly be as effective? And I would argue no, because of the bureaucracy you're about to hit.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So if you're dealing with one person, if I'm coaching that person, sure, because we all think, the nature of thought is such that it creates our experience, and that's the thing that blocks us the most. But if you're then talking about coaching, teams in the corporate world, it's a very different ball game. I started doing that, and I've moved more towards one-to-one business owners because that's my passion. I feel like you can turn the oil tanker a lot quicker, right? If you're not encumbered with all the corporate stuff.
Yeah, and I think that.
Let me jump in real quick because I feel like we're mixing the greatness of Claire. So you typically serve women, right? Women entrepreneurs. And what is the most common theme when one of your prospects comes to you? What do women who are starting their own business struggle with the most? And yeah, go ahead. So for me, I think it might be imposter syndrome. I could be totally wrong about that. You're the expert of that.
Well, I mean, I think the majority of my conversations ultimately come down to, am I good enough? And that's an ongoing question. Am I really good enough to do this? Am I really good enough to pitch to that client? Am I really good enough? Can I really deliver the outcome that I say I'm going to? I was having a conversation the other day with one of my goddesses who just won a client, and it's, yes, amazing, I've won, like ecstatic. And then immediately fear, shit, how am I going to deliver this? What if I can't deliver it? What if I fail? It's fascinating how we operate as human beings. And so it's a pattern. Doesn't really matter who you are, where you are. At some stage, you've experienced that if you're in sales.
Right.
So, I sort of operate on two levels, is, the process of sales, or the strategy of sales. So we look at the strategy and process, but underneath, we're looking at the psychology of sales and your energy, the energetics of selling as well. What you're thinking is always going to create your energy, right? Your vibe shows up before you even say hello. So what vibe are you putting out, which comes from our thinking and our feelings? So you can have a great strategy and process, but if underneath it you doubt yourself and you think that I'm not good enough, then that's going to show up in your energy, right? So we're always looking at the foundation of those two pillars.
I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think a lot of it boils down to posture, in terms of how confident are you within yourself to be able to say, yeah, I'm as good as that next company, or we can hold a candle to that. And I think every business owner has that internal conversation in their head, in terms of, no different than when Doug was starting copywriting. How do I compete with the big boys? Am I good enough? Or when you first started consulting, in terms of, I bet your fee structure is different today as opposed to what it was when you started this 8 years ago or whenever it was.
Sure is, yeah.
Right? Because you didn't have the same posture today that you had 8 years ago. Like when we started our business 6 years ago, there's no way we would have pitched for the stuff that we pitch for today. And I think, that we've become more confident in ourselves and our posture and the internal conversation with ourselves is that, yeah, why wouldn't we give it a crack? We're as good as the next guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, like I said at the start, our internal conditions always dictate our external conditions. So we have to get grounded certainty in not only in who we are, but in our offer as well. Am I 100% certain that my academy is going to change someone's business, transform the way they see sales? Hell yeah. And so if you have that grounded certainty, then you want to go out and talk about your offer. You want to share your message because you can help people. You can take people from like hating sales and being so like suffering in their doubt around, God, how do I sell? How do I win new clients? Oh, I hate it so much. And you can transform them, that they get empowered and encouraged and excited. So yeah, why wouldn't you want to share that message, right? But it's got to start with you. It's got to start with knowing your greatness and knowing that your offer is going to be transformational for the people that you're working with.
What happens though when you're consulting with someone? I've got two questions. This is the first one. What happens when you, Claire, think, your offer, Doug, is not strong enough? Do you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, well, yes. It's more in their own clarity, though, oftentimes, isn't it? Like, how well do they know their client? How well do they know their client's problem? And therefore, how well are they speaking to solving it, right? So it's not ever about, it really comes back to them and their clarity, I'd say. So it's not about so much their offer. It's, okay, how well we need to get closer to your client.
So my second question is, why only women? Why did you focus just on female? You know.
Yeah, so that whole idea of niching down, right? And I think when I looked at it, I just had such a powerful, I thought I've got quite a powerful story from knowing what it was like having imposter syndrome, you know, being deemed as very successful in the corporate world, but on the inside, just feeling like, who is going to find me out? When am I going to get tapped on the shoulder? And this fall from grace when they realize I'm a fraud and I don't really know what I'm doing is going to be so humiliating. So I just can really relate to women in business and how they think and feel. And so who can I serve best and who am I most passionate about serving? That's someone who's been in my position. Someone who I've walked in their footsteps. But having said that, I see niching like a bit of a dartboard. Like there's the bullseye as your ideal client, your 5-star client, right? But I work with men because men suffer from imposter syndrome as well. So 80% of my clients are women, but I won't, you know, if someone's suffering from imposter syndrome and they connect with me and how I work,
right.
Then I'm not going to turn anyone away. Obviously, I want to help as many people as I can.
Where did imposter syndrome come from? You know, and I speak as somebody who in the past, I mean a little bit now, who has struggled with that, like for the same reason you just thought. Am I going to get found out? Are people going to think I'm full of shit? Am I going to get dumped? But, you know, and I think from your end, you're taking it from a woman's perspective. And do you feel like women in general feel like they don't belong or don't have a seat at the table? Or is it society that's penetrating their subconscious and telling them that they're not good enough? Maybe, or am I overshooting that?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question. There's stats, you know, from a while back now, about 5 or 6 years, that's saying that something like 67% of people that suffer from of imposter syndrome are women. So, you know, I think there's a collective consciousness in the way women have shown up in history, or you know, have been not at the table. I think that's changing, but you know, imposter syndrome has been around for years. It's a psychological, you know, understanding. So it's not just women. It's anyone can get it. But yeah, I don't know, Doug. I think there's definitely a collective consciousness around it, but women seem to be stopped by it more. Like not even just imposter syndrome, self-doubt as well. Women seem to stop themselves more. You know, you look at I think there was a Price Waterhouse survey years back about, you know, if you've got a man and a woman going for a job interview, the woman has to tick off all 10 requirements. If she's only got 9, oh, that job's not for me. I don't have the right qualifications. Whereas a guy, I think he only needed something like 4. Yep, I'll go for it. You know, puts his CV in. So we are more about, I have to have all the tick boxes. And whether that's because you're a good girl and, you know, you have, I don't know what it is, but there's, you know, that's kind of where we're coming from. So self-doubt seems to stop us more in taking action than men. It seems to. I might be completely wrong with that, but that's how it seems to me.
I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think that when I was in corporate, our country manager for New Zealand was probably one of the most impressive people I've met, and she was an attorney by training, but well, I wouldn't have wanted to tell her that she had imposter syndrome or suffered from it, because she'd kill you, right? You know, and then our head of sales in Australia was a remarkably talented female, and I think that, or person, I mean, we didn't hire based on gender. We hired on, could you do the job, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, because, you know, we didn't want to get arrested or you know, thrown in jail for, you know, gender bias. But that's true. I've had the good fortune of working with some remarkably talented females and males. But of the people that have impressed me the most, they would be female that I've worked with easily. And you know, so I don't. But I do get what you're saying, is that, you know, I know plenty of females that would say, yeah, unless I could tick all 10, I'm not, I'm freaking out, right? Or I'm not going to do it. So.
I mean, yeah, of course. There's not every woman is like that. Women are amazing, full stop. It's just to what degree do you listen to that inner voice in your head that's telling you no? It's telling you don't do that. You can't do that. You're not good enough. Just stay here. Stay safe. Right. This is where you are. You're comfortable in this pool. Just stay here, rather than I'm going to go for it. And so, to what degree do we listen to that inner voice? Is where I kind of want to play in that area. I want to show them that inner voice isn't you. It isn't a patch on what you're capable of doing. If you could just step outside of that voice and take action.
See, and I think that there's also a cultural division too. So, the Australian and New Zealand perhaps work culture is different to the US work culture. So I think I'm not sure how many of the clients that you have now are based here in the US versus, onshore in Oz and
my majority of my client base is UK, EU actually.
UK, EU, okay.
Yeah.
So a bit like, yeah, okay. I mean, Jenny Tilburn's probably in the same boat, but I think that, the thing that I've noticed after, living here for so long and being around the US culture for so long is that Aussies and Kiwis are a bit more reserved, I think, about that, whereas it's the US that's, fast charging, get into it. And I think that rubs off on men and women here. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's just an observation I have from, just the way things operate, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
We were talking about this yesterday, actually. I think UK and New Zealand. I'm not so much Australia, I don't think, or you might disagree, but that tall poppy syndrome, as soon as you raise your head above the norm or the majority, they're just waiting to chop you down. So
the US is all about applauding success, and forgiving failure. Right? We're very good at forgiving failure. Well, look at Doug. We're forgiving him, but it is, it's very, very good at, like, if you look at a lot of the tech, the most famous tech, successes. There's so many stories where the guys maxed out their credit cards, they went broke, they lived in their parents' basement, they lived out of the founder of Uber was, a woefully terrible, business person on his first couple of attempts, that sort of stuff. Whereas, but in Australia, we remember the Alan Bonds of the world, and we remember all of the failed charlatans, and we don't forgive very well, and we certainly don't applaud you being successful. Whereas here, I think and I still struggle with that too, to be honest, even after I've lived here for so long, that, it's the Americans have about a 7 year, and that's about it, right? Then everyone else, back to zero, off we go again, right? In fact, it's a lot less, I think. Right? It's probably 3.
It's a good way to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I did a post on failure yesterday, actually, because I just think we've got it so wrong. Like, the societal understanding of failure is bad, and yet I think the magnitude of our success comes down to how many times have you failed. Because when you fail, it means you're taking action, right? It means you're taking steps towards your vision. You're just getting out of your head and you're doing stuff. And by doing stuff, then you tweak and you do again, and then you tweak and you do again. And that's how you get successful, right?
Right.
But we're so fearful of failure. I can't, I don't want to put myself out there because I don't want to look stupid, or I don't want to get rejected, or I don't want to look like a loser, or, whatever. So I just think, we need to embrace it. Embrace it, because it's part of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from with Australia, because I think if you look at, and the same thing with New Zealand. I mean, I hope this doesn't ever get out, but New Zealand punches way above its weight for a country. Okay, so I know I can see your head swelling there, Claire. That an Australian that's actually.
Well, it's truth. You're just speaking truth, aren't you?
Oh, sorry, I cut out there for a little bit. I don't know what happened to the audience. So Doug, we'll edit this bit out and we'll just say Australians, much better. But they do, but I don't know where it comes from, because if you look at then the combined, talents of Australia and New Zealand, in a lot of things, like Olympic swimming, Olympic sailing. You know, like I'd rack up the Aussies and the Kiwis, you know, first and second all the time for stuff like that. But I don't know where does that come from, because the US has a completely different view of that, right? And I think that goes back to your initial thoughts about, you know, the conversation that you have in your own head and the self-doubt, and that's what generates perhaps imposter syndrome too. And I think that I'm fascinated by the psychology of selling like you are. I still regard myself as an eternal student, you know, and I think the more I can hang around smart salespeople, the better we are as a business, and the more we learn and the better we write, you know. So
yeah,
then I could stop paying people like Doug to write for us. And,
no, never. Hire the best, always. You can't do it all, Simon.
That I know.
So, to answer Simon's question, why do you think New Zealand punches above its weight compared to Australia?
No, he didn't say that. I didn't say compared to Australia. I said like compared to, like, you know, Uzbekistan or you know, some weird test. You know. Okay,
you know, I don't know actually. I think it's a really
as an example, because that's not.
Are you still talking? I don't know actually. I wonder if you know, we're a small island, right? So you've got a small body of people. We've always had an incredible rugby team that are just, you know, we're just passionate about doing things differently, seeing things differently, giving things a go. There's a saying like, oh, she'll be right, mate. Like, that's very Kiwi, which is, well, let's just give it a go and we'll see what happens. And she'll be right kind of means, well, it's always going to be okay. We'll just take action. We'll just try this and it's always going to be okay. So there's kind of those throwaway sayings that seems to be in our nature. Let's just give it a go because she'll be right.
Until it isn't. And then they call the Australians to come and help them fix all the shit that they screwed up.
It's all lies. It's all lies.
See, Doug, this is called banter between two countries. This is how you and the Canadians could do it, you know, instead of like insulting each other properly. Right.
So I think I like you said, I'm fascinated by psychology, full stop. Not, you know, it's all psychology, right? Like, because we're always battling about with this interaction we have in our head, this what I call ego, well, not me, but ego self, and, you know, higher mind. We've got ego self going, don't fail, just stay here, stay safe, you're okay, stay in the comfort zone. And higher mind is our natural inclination to grow and expand, going, come on, you can do this, you can do this. This is where you need to go this way, do it, grow, expand. So we've got this constant interaction going on in our head, and to the degree of which we understand and are aware of our thoughts is to the degree of which we take action. If we think our thoughts are us, and if we think that they're truth, then we're pretty much going to stay in our own box and stay here and probably not do much. If we can see that thought is transient energy just arising and dissolving, and then, you know, one day we'll think, yeah, I can do this, and the next day we'll think, no, I can't, you know, so it's all just rubbish. And if we can take action anyway, despite what we're thinking and feeling, then that's the degree of how successful you'll be at anything.
The thing that I think, you know, because I know we're coming up to the top of the time, Claire, but I'd love to get your thoughts on the younger generation. Okay, so I have a 20-year-old son who's somewhere off in his room playing video games, and I have an 18-year-old daughter. You know, they're both going back to college this year, and, you know, my daughter was applying for a summer job. Okay, and so she thought that the best way to do that was buy a book on how to write a resume, right? And I sort of was biting my tongue, thinking, no, I'm not going to get involved, right? So I think that the kids these days, what disappoints me with is none of them can pick up the phone because they text everything. So they can't have a conversation. And I think they're not really good at communicating with the written word. And then speaking in public is completely foreign to them. And I think we've done our younger generation a disservice, I think. And I'm not sure what the answer is. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think smartphones have got a lot to be, we're grateful for, but equally they've created a cocoon.
Right.
People are living in a cocoon, which is just them and their smartphones, right? But my answer to that is I think that we are bringing our kids up in a society where we're teaching them groupthink.
Right.
And I want us to avoid groupthink at all frickin' costs, because it's the bane of our existence. Teaching our young people to think for themselves, to think freely, to question, to test. Is that true? Is what I'm being told here true? Most of the time, it's not. Think for themselves, but teaching them how this works.
Right.
There's so much freedom and understanding that we are not our thoughts, that this doesn't rule us, that we can actually, we are creators of our life by design if we understand how this works. We can have anything we want if we understand how this works. So I wish that we would teach that stuff in schools. Unfortunately, I feel like our schools are going more into learn this. This is what you should be. This is who you should be. This is how you should be. Cookie cutters, and that suits society, right? But yeah, if you can teach your kids to, Mark Twain said something, I read this years ago, and it just really resonated with me, which is when you're on the side of the majority, it's time to stop, pause, and reflect.
Right.
We've got to teach our kids to think for themselves, to be free thinkers, because, that's where it's at. Innate creativity is who we are. Fresh ideas, we can come up with them all the time if we just learn that's available to us, rather than getting sucked into groupthink.
Yeah, very wise. What else, Brother Doug? Claire's the smartest person we've had on. She's much smarter than the two of us.
Yes, combined.
Yes, and way looking than
where
both
can
of us.
people find you, Claire?
Linky Dink. LinkedIn is where I mostly hang out. My website is swellcoach.co.uk, so www.swellcoach.uk, or look me up on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people. I love conversations. So yeah, find me there. We can hang out.
So, Doug, would you ask Claire to say fish and chips? Just ask her to say that one.
So, Claire,
Fish and
are you
chips.
going back to the UK?
It's the question on everyone's lips. My answer in this moment is yes, and has been ever since I've came out here. But
Well, can't you leave? Can you not leave?
No, I'm free to leave at any stage. With challenges, obviously, but I'm never averse to a few challenges. But I haven't lived in New Zealand for about 25 years now, and I've just been reconnected to this incredible country. And so I'm really enjoying it. And I'm hanging with my mum and dad, and I'm hanging with my family and my aunties and uncles, and I can come to birthday parties and anniversaries and just having a blast, right? So life is for living is my family mantra, and that's what I'm doing every moment of every day.
Good to hear. See, I can go back to Australia, but I don't want to quarantine for 2 weeks. And so, it's just like...
Well, it's the same with UK, right? I mean, I did it here for New Zealand, and thank goodness I did, because I've loved my time here. But I'm trying to avoid that back in the UK.
Yeah, well,
if I can.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not hang out in paradise for as long as you can, right?
Wait, but you're not in Australia.
You have snakes and spiders. I'm not interested in going there. That's not paradise.
Snakes and spiders.
I like that.
You sound like an American.
Thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's been such a joy.
It's been a fantastic conversation.
I really love that.
You're so good at that. So I hope people take this podcast and go right to Claire LinkedIn and give her a DM. She's a fantastic person to chat with.
Bye, Claire's shit. Bye, Claire's shit.
Thank you, you two. Doug, have been a joy to follow. I absolutely love your posts. So when you messaged me and said, can I come on your podcast? I think I was like, hell yes. I'm trying to be cool. Is that too excited?
No.
So,
you're fantastic. Fantastic.
Very good.
Oh, shucks. Simon, lovely to meet you too. It's been a really great conversation. Thank you so much.
Excellent. All right.
Yes.
See you later, Claire.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.